So today I would like to talk about what what do you think about this principle? And the principle is, I'm going to ask the question: do your convictions control your life? What do you think? Do your convictions control your life? This is something that I've just been thinking about as I read certain things. If we go into the scripture and I read where in Matthew 8, where Jesus spoke to the centurion, and the centurion had a belief. And I would say this belief was not just a head belief, but it was a heart belief, which I refer to as a conviction. And I think that that heart conviction was the key for the centurion to experience what he did. But this is what Jesus told him, and my question to you, and the question I had, Jesus told him, "Be it unto you as you have believed." That's in Matthew 8, chapter 13. And the scripture said that what the centurion was wishing for is what happened. So, my question is, when Jesus said, "Be it unto you according as you have believed," was that just to the centurion, or was Jesus speaking a truth that is a universal truth for humanity? Be it unto you according as you have believed. So, my question as I ponder that is, does your belief control your life? And not just what you believe in your head. Because we all can say we believe this, we believe that, but when a belief becomes so deep rooted to where it becomes a conviction in your heart, to the point to where you would say or do something bold, but it's leaning toward that conviction, that belief. Is that the thing that shapes your life? And if so, then in some way, would it be possible that we're all living in a realm, well, let me put it this way: our life is a result of our convictions? Is it true, possibly, that we are we are living what we really deeply believe? That could go either way. That could go for the victories and the joys that you have in your life, or it may even go, and well, it does go, if it's true, even the struggles. Not that you believed in the struggles, but somehow it's connected to what your convictions will allow and what your convictions would not allow. Is that possible? And remember, comment, like, and share this, and let's enter into the conversations. Can your belief, or think back in your life, have your beliefs or what you really were convicted in your heart, your convictions, have they, can you look back and see anything that has manifested? Maybe you really believed that you were going to be a doctor, or maybe you really from a child believed that you were going to be an attorney, or maybe you believed deep down inside that you were going to be wealthy, and you look back and say those things happened, and I really believed. It's not even like you desire them. Let's not get desire or strong desire in, let's not mix that in with a conviction. Now, the desire of the centurion was, he wanted his servant who was sick to be healed. That was the desire. The conviction was, he was so convinced that Jesus could heal him, to where he told Jesus, you don't even have to come to my house. You can just say the word, and the word that you speak will have the same effect and heal my servant. And it's ironic that he was not a religious person. He was a Roman guard. He was not part of Israel at that time. So this has nothing to do with religion. This have nothing to do with religious theology, I would say. The rules that govern religious theology, I think this goes beyond religion, and it can go into any area of life. And his desire was for healing for his servant, but his conviction is Jesus was so able to do this that he didn't even have to come to his house. So it even surprised Jesus. Could you imagine? Jesus was surprised. It said he marveled. He was surprised to see a man with that deep conviction of his ability, Christ's ability, and it was not part of the nation of Israel at that time. So that's the thought process. Now let's see. Can we see anywhere else in the Bible that this may be a principle? Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23. Guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it flows the forces of your life. Now, what is written here in Proverbs by Solomon, who was one of he was the wisest man ever to live, is that your life flows from the inside of your heart. Again, convictions. Your life flows out of your heart. So he said, protect your heart. And this is not your pump, not your blood pump. It's the deepest part of your psyche. It's your subconscious mind is what the heart is. And he says, guard that, because out of that, your life, all the issues of your life comes from there. That's positive and that's negative. But it comes from the inside of your heart. So there's a difference between that type of conviction, belief, and just head knowledge or belief in your mind, which some people call mental assent, to where, yeah, okay, I believe that it's going to rain today, or I believe that whatever, whatever you may believe. This is a conviction that usually calls for some sort of bold statement or action. Somewhat like, if you remember, the lady with the bleeding, that she said that if I just touch the hem of Jesus' garment, that I will be made whole. Now, that was a conviction because she went out into the public square, which at that time, under Jewish culture, if you were bleeding in a menstrual way and you went out in public, you could be stoned because you were unclean, and now you're out there amongst other people. You can actually be stoned. So she did take her life in her hands, going after the hem of Jesus' garment. And her conviction, her faith, her belief that became a conviction manifested exactly what her desire was. Again, desire and conviction is two different things. Her desire was to be whole, but her conviction was all she had to do was touch his garment, and then that would be the catalyst that would heal her, to the point that when Jesus looked back at her, he realized that her faith, her belief, her conviction is what made her whole. And this is what he said: your faith made you whole. He didn't say, I, Jesus, the Son of God, made you whole. Jesus did not turn around, look at her, and put his hands on her head and say, daughter, be whole, be healed. He didn't do that. In fact, he did not give permission for healing to flow out of him. He did not give her permission. She did it because of a conviction that she was willing to lay her life on the line for. So, with that said, is there a pattern? Now, some people in some religious circles would say there is no pattern because it was the power of Jesus that caused her to be healed. But that's not what Jesus said. Jesus said her faith, her conviction is what made her whole. So, what do you think about that? It's like fear. Could fear be a conviction? Could fear be a belief of something negative? And you believe it so subconsciously that to where it becomes a conviction? Is that possible? And then that conviction shape your life? Because we know there is a lot of people who live in constant fear of different things. And it shapes their life. It becomes their experience. Somewhat like in the book of Job, when Job got all the bad news of how his family was destroyed and how all of his cattle and everything was destroyed, what did Job say? He said, the thing that I greatly feared has come upon me. His fear was a conviction in his heart, so deeply felt. And now this thing has come upon him. The thing that I feared has come upon me. Could that be a reality in a lot of people's life? So let's take inventory of our life. Let's take inventory to say, okay, is there anything that I believe to that point? Is there anything that I believe so strongly in my heart that it's subconscious, that it goes unnoticed? It's not a conscious belief, which some are, but some are deep beliefs that are subconscious that you don't have to automatically think about. And I have a couple that I could share with in my own life. I've always, because of the way I was raised, I always believed that I would be self-employed. I don't know where it came from. Probably came from my father. My father used to always tell me, never depend on anybody for your beans. Get your own beans. He used to always tell me that when I was like 7, 8, or 9. Now, when I got older, I did have jobs. I worked at high school jobs pumping gas back when you can actually pump somebody else's gas. I did certain things like that, and it was fine. But I always leaned toward doing something on my own. And I remember when I left my job at I was working for American Express, my coworkers looked at me like I was crazy, like, you're leaving this company? And I didn't realize why they looked at me like I was crazy, because I didn't value what they valued. I didn't value having a position with a Fortune 500 company. I didn't value it because my conviction was to be doing something where I made my own money. And that's the way it's been for the last 40 years of my life. And that was a conviction that shaped my life without me consciously thinking about it. And there are other convictions that I would share, some deeper convictions, and they're not religious, but they're just life convictions that I personally have, and I will share possibly on another video. But think about your life. What is it that you really, truly believe? When the lights are off, when your eyes are closed, when there's nobody around, what is your deep convictions? And are those the things that is shaping or has shaped your life? Depends on where you are in your life. You know, and it could be anything. It could be a career move. It could be a relationship move where you're married. You always just knew this was going to happen. You always saw yourself married. Or it could be even the other way. You could have always saw yourself single, and then you're single, or you could have always seen yourself with. It's just like I'll share another short one. I don't know why I knew I would have 3 kids. I never went for the 2. You know, our culture said, "Oh, have a boy and a girl." I never aspired to that belief. I always knew I would have 3 kids. Now, granted, I have 7 because I married in and got 4 bonus children. And from that wife, I did get 2 others, but I came into there with 1. And I knew I would have at least 3 kids. I never saw myself just having 1 child, even though I had 1 child for years. I just knew that I knew that I knew that that was like a conviction. And my first child was a girl. And I knew from a teenager, I don't know why I knew this. I just knew I was going to have a girl first. I don't know why. But I just knew I would have a girl child first. And when my wife at that time was pregnant, I told her this is going to be a girl. She didn't want to have the gender checked and everything. And I said, well, it doesn't matter, because I just knew, and I don't know why I knew it. I just knew that I knew I was going to have a girl. And sure enough, I did have a girl. And she came out exactly like I expected. Um, and the funny thing about it, the nurse gave me her, and I held her in my hands, and she said, "Well, I got to take her back to weigh her." And I said, "She's 8 pounds." And she's like, "No, this is a tiny baby. She can't be 8 pounds." I said, "No, she's 8 pounds." Because I knew I was going to have an 8 pound baby. I don't know. Again, I don't know why. I knew it, but I just knew it. And the nurse came back and said, "She's exactly 8 pounds on the numbers." So anyway, with that said, I won't go any further. Video is 20 minutes. So remember, like, comment, share your view on this. If you disagree with me, great, share it. If you agree, share it. Share your story about this, and we'll go into some more things that have happened to me, and maybe we can share more on this in the next video.